What's up, guys? Hope everyone's doing good. Today, we're going to be going over the Jets 2023 NFL Draft and how I would grade pretty much each pick. So when it comes to this draft, to kind of put in a few words before we get into each pick, is that this draft was not flashy like last year. It's not this generational class. That class we had last year was one that you'll probably get once every 10 years. So to come in with that expectation that it should be matching last year's class would be a little bit disingenuous. Especially because we had, 3 first-round picks, Breece Hall in the second. It would be hard to match that, and this class wasn't seen as one that was as good as last year's class. Overall, this class, it wasn't flashy. It got holes done. It added depth, what it needed to do. We go through this, you'll notice there's a big focus on athleticism. So either versatility in position, athleticism of the player, and possibly some depth, normally depending on position. So to start off, we're going to look at the 15th overall pick in the first round, and that was spent on Will McDonald out of Iowa State. Now, Will McDonald is 6'4", he's 239. His RAS score, which is his relative athletic score, was a 9.66 out of 10. Super athletic. When it comes to his pros, as I just mentioned, his athleticism is one of the big ones. He also has long arms. If you look at some of his film, I was watching some clips of him, and he has this great spin move, which reminds me of someone like Dwight Freeney on the Colts, a former pass rusher from back in the day who was a monster. He doesn't necessarily comp well to Dwight Freeney, but just the spin move, it just reminds me of him, especially seeing as it's one of his main moves that he likes to use when rushing the passer. The last one, which I know everyone's going to hate because you've probably heard it a million times by now, but his bend around the edge is another thing that people love. Like I said, heard it a million times as a way to help justify the pick. Me personally, I was surprised about this pick. I think it was just more because we expected tackle for so long. So the fact that we got an edge rusher kind of threw everyone off, and I think that threw me off. It wasn't the guy I was looking at as closely, which made me kind of, my first reaction, not like the pick. But as I've looked over it, given a day or two to kind of, look into all of our picks, I definitely have a better feeling on it. Some of his cons is in his bulk and size. He is only 239. That's light. He was listed as outside linebacker. He's going to be more of an edge rusher, passing edge rusher for us, especially in his first year. So that's definitely a concern, his bulk and his be able to power rush, because like I said, he doesn't have that great size. And then the other one is run defense. Getting beat up in the interior on run game is definitely going to be something that's a concern. But like I said, with him giving a year or two to bulk up, I definitely think he can address those. And overall, for this pick, I give it a B. One thing to note, though, is I definitely cut some slack on the pick because he was misused in college. If you look at any of his tape, he was misused. They even had him playing an inside defensive end at some plays when he played at Iowa State. The role that he's going to play with us, he's going to be more way out on the edge, and it's going to be able to really utilize, like I said, his great athleticism that he has, and to be able to get around offensive tackles. So I definitely think he'll be playing better, and his film is not the end-all be-all when it comes to how good he can be. Now we're going to go on to the next pick, which was pick 43, if I'm not mistaken. Second round, we picked up Joe Tippmann, the center from Wisconsin. Now, before the draft started, I actually had a little list of guys that I liked in the draft that I wanted us to draft that I was going to do a video on, but I didn't end up going through with it. But one of the guys on there was actually Joe Tippmann. I saw John Michael Schmitz is actually going off the board slightly before us. I would have been happy with either one, but after looking at it, Joe Tippmann is definitely more of a scheme fit than, it fits more what we need than John Michael Schmitz, and it really seemed like between those two, it was more of style and scheme fit for whoever wanted to draft him, which is why the Giants picking him as John Michael Schmitz later on in the draft was a steal as well, because like I said, I think he's going to be a great center for them, and it's kind of crazy to see both New York teams are probably going to have a center for the next 10 years of their career. But to focus more on Tippmann 6'6", 313 pounds, so he's huge, adds to that offensive line. You got Mekhi at 6'7", him at 6'6". Just some of the other guys. You have guys 6'5", 6'6" on the line. We're going to have a huge line. His RAS score, it's kind of hard to tell, which something I had to note there is that we don't have all the testing numbers for him to be able to accurately pick the RAS number, the relative athletic score, but a lot of estimates were thinking that he was 9+. So like I said, continuing on the theme of getting athletic freaks, pretty much. When it comes to the pros, IQ and experience, that's what XP means, experience, playing out there on the field, he's had a lot of starts, great starter for Wisconsin, so he's playing with experience, actually getting snaps in, and his athleticism. Like I said, he's more agile than John Michael Schmitz is, so he's perfect for our zone blocking scheme, and he'll be great on pulling. Like I said, it was one of the first things that the draft analysts put on for ESPN when we picked him, which helps him be a good fit. And the two major cons that I saw was his pad level, which is something, like I said, that's correctable, and his hand technique that he had. Like I said, they're both correctable things. I think with coaching, we'll be able to develop him and get him up. I'm going to give an A pick on this. It was an area of need with center. Even though we got McGovern back, I do think that he's more, with him only signing a 1 year, like $2 million deal, he's going to be more of a depth piece than necessarily a starter. So I really think Tippmann can win the job in there and really be our starting center for the next 5 to 10 years. It's great to see that, because the last time we had anyone close to that was Nick Mangold back, I think it was in 2006. So it's great to see us now actually have a great center. Next, I'm going to be looking at Carter Warren, 4th round, pick 120. Now, when it comes to Carter Warren, he's 6'5.5". He's 3'11", and his arm length is 35 3/8. Like I said, I don't have the athletic score in front of me. It might be up there on the screen, but he did also have a decent relative athletic score. It wasn't crazy compared to some of the other guys to him, but for him, like I said, I think his pros really work out. He has a lot of experience blocking for Pitt, and he has great size and length. Like I said, the 6'5.5", 3'11". He's seen as a guy with a high floor. Maybe not as high of a ceiling. Like I said, some of his cons is his run blocking ability. He's more of a pass blocker than a run blocker. And then also his injury. Like I said, he was out for most of the year with an injury this year, which is why he fell. He probably would have been, people were saying, a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and he fell to the 4th round solely because of the injury factor. Overall, I think it's a B+ pick. It's definitely not the starting offensive line that we wanted, some crazy high-end offensive linemen. But I think, like I said, it'll be good depth if someone like Dwayne Brown goes down. I think he'll be able to be fully healthy for the start of the year. I really like, it seems like, to what he brings. I think he'd be our Max Mitchell for this year. A guy who, if he needs to step in, can be a solid starter for a few games, and then maybe at best can be a average starter for us. God forbid, later down the line, we're not able to address tackle more in the way that we want to. Overall, I give this pick a B+. I think it was solid. You can maybe give it a B, like I said, because he is a high floor, low ceiling kind of guy. But it also works out because our next pick in the 5th round at 143 was Israel Abanikanda. Sorry, I'm not very good at pronouncing his name. But Izzy to the Hizzy is on the New York Jets. This is actually a guy I first saw in Brett Coleman's video talking about some of his My Guys, and at running back position, he mentioned him. So he's a guy that I'd heard about a little bit, but I was actually surprised that the Jets pick him. He's 5'10", he's 216. His relative athletic score was a 9.63 out of 10. When it comes to his pros, he has a great speed to power combo. I think he ran the 4.3s in the combine, so he's a speedster. And like I said, he also has solid power to him. He has a patient runner. He has great home run ability. Like I said, Izzy to the Hizzy was one of his nicknames because, like I said, if you look at a few of his plays and his highlight plays there for Pitt, he was definitely someone that could break off a huge run for them. And he seems to be a guy that has great effort, never gives up, getting yards and everything like that. So he'll definitely be a guy we want. The only cons is his lateral agility is not the best. Like I said, he's more of a speed, power, north and south runner. So you're not really going to be getting like a guy who's going to be juking, doing crazy cuts or anything like that. Which I think is fine. And he's had a little bit of fumble issues. He had a few fumbles this past year and over his career. So it's more than what you would normally want out of a guy, but I don't think it's too huge an issue. It's more nitpicky. Overall, I give this grade an A. I think, especially with Brees coming back, I know they say that he's ready, but I think it's going to take him some time to fully be, fully up to speed. And sometimes it takes over a year. I mean, not everyone could be like AP where they come back right away. Saquon, for example, when he messed up his knee, his first year, he really wasn't the same. It took him to that second year, which was last year, to really get back to his old groove. So I think he'll be great to use. You're worried about if someone like Bam Knight's going to make the team because I feel like they're both somewhat similar. And I think, to be honest, Izzy is someone that's better at the things that Bam Knight was good at, especially with how Bam Knight struggled in the last 2 or 3 games of the year. But either way, we have a deep running back room, and I can't wait to see him even in preseason, but also in the regular season. I think he's definitely going to be an instant contributor, which is why I give it an A grade. Our next pick in the 6th round was Zaire Barnes, linebacker out of Western Michigan. This guy, to be honest with you, didn't know really anything about. He's 6'1", he's 232. His RAS score, the athleticism score, is at 9.12 out of 10. When it comes to his pros, his athleticism and experience as being a starter, and his cons are his size. This one I'm not going to focus on too much. I'm pretty sure that, like him and the next pick, they both had special teams experience, which is really where they come in. Like I said, I think it's a usual linebacker pick that they're going to want to work on, like we did when getting Nazdarine a few years back. So I really think Zaire Barnes is going to be the same thing. Worst case scenario, he's a depth piece on and a special teamer. But like I said, I give it a C. It's an alright pick, not anything crazy. And he's really a boomer bust if he's really going to be anything on the team. But like I said, he probably should make the roster. But next, in the 6th round at pick 204, we have Jarek Bernard Converse out of LSU, cornerback. Now he's 6'1", 197 with a 9.78 RAS score. Didn't hear much about this guy either. One of the big things is athleticism and the fact that he's actually almost every year switched between cornerback and safety. So he definitely brings that versatility, which is one of those things that I think is on the board there for the Jets draft philosophy. One of the cons is his hip movement and his instincts. Like I said, partially makes me think that he might be a safety on our team and not a corner. Especially because we have other guys like Bryce Hall and we have Brandon Eccles and everything. So I think we have a deep cornerback room. He has special teams experience like the last player, so I think he'll definitely be getting special teams reps. And then also I think he'll actually be put at safety, so I think he'll be a nice safety, third safety to have. Give it a C grade. We'll have to see how he does. It's an alright pick, not anything too crazy. It was okay. Can't really do anything about that. Now, last but not least, our 7th round pick 220. This, to me, was the steal of the draft for us. We drafted Zach Kuntz, tight end out of Old Dominion University. Zach Kuntz, I'm so excited about this guy. He is 6'7", 255 with an RAS score 10 out of 10. This guy had one of the best Combine Pro Day athletic performances that you've seen out of a tight end in history, because this obviously compares Combine Pro Day performances from history at that position. Even as a receiver, I may or may not have the picture up on here, but I actually put his numbers in as if he was a receiver. And he actually graded as a 9.66. The only thing that was a little lower was his speed at 4.5. I think he had a 4.55 40 time. So what wouldn't be crazy fast for a wide receiver, but still he would be a good, decent athletic wide receiver. But he is an elite athleticism tight end. Obviously with his pros, like I just mentioned, his height, he's an athletic freak. Some of his cons is he was injured. He only played 4 games this year before getting injured. So you do have that concern for his knee injury, his kneecap injury. But supposedly that's healed up. His experience, like I said, he was stuck in Penn State behind someone like Brendan Strange, who actually went earlier, and Pat Freiermuth. So he really didn't start until last year, and then also for the 4 games this year. So he doesn't have a lot of experience playing as a starter at tight end. And you could also look at the competition of Old Dominion being in a weaker conference as well as something towards that. Another thing is his route running. He's not the most smooth route runner. He seemed more as a guy that's kind of uses athleticism and height to kind of dominate, some weaker competition and some guys like that. But I think that's something we can improve. I see him as being maybe not an instant contributor this year, but next year, maybe Uzama leaves the team and, Tyler Conklin, we may or may not have him. I could easily see him and Ruckert being a great 1-2 punch. Kuntz being our number 1 receiving tight end, Ruckert being a good blocking tight end and second tight end. Even though I think Ruckert, we do have 4 tight ends, I think Ruckert will still have a spot on the team. I, to be honest, think that with him getting another offseason of workouts and everything, he'll be more of like a fullback kind of role for us. So I think he'll still get a roster spot, and I still like Ruckert. But like I said, with the deep tight end room, I think he's someone that we kind of stash on. He'll probably be inactive on most game days, but I think give it a year or two, I think he has the potential to be a Jimmy Graham for us. I'm so excited about Zach Kuntz, especially because he was like a third, fourth round talent. We scooped him in the 7th round, and so he kind of made this draft from like a B- to a B+ overall. So overall, I give this draft, like I said, I would give it about a B. Like I said, it wasn't amazing elite like last year. It wasn't terrible. I think it was a solid draft. We filled up some holes, got some well-needed depth, and we took a 7th round flyer on a tight end that could be a star for us later down the line. So guys, down below, please let me know what you think about the Jets draft. I liked it. Like I said, it wasn't the most flashy, but I think got a lot of things done, and it makes me really excited to see how we're going to do this year. Like I said, feel free to let me know down below. Subscribe if you want more sports content. Like the video. And besides that, guys, I'm out.